The barren moon of Fallon Ridge trembled under the march of armored invaders as Lena crouched behind a shattered basalt spire. Her spear, once a treasured heirloom of her clan, lay in her trembling grip. She could feel the vibration of approaching footsteps as a fresh wave of metallic hunters advanced. Their armor gleamed like a line of cold suns. Their visors burned crimson. Their weapons crackled as if eager to taste another life. Lena's breaths came thin and fast. She had been sent to scout, not to fight an entire squad, yet here she was. Every warrior she had trained with always told her to keep the spear intact. No matter what happened, the weapon must stay whole, because it bound the courage of her ancestors. She had believed it. She had clung to it. Now the shaft showed a deep fracture from a glancing strike. The crack split further each time her fingers tightened around it. She pressed her palm over the break, as if she could will it. Shut, but the damage only spread. The hunters tightened their formation. The semicircle around her inched closer. They spoke in mechanical voices, announcing that capture was unnecessary. Elimination was authorized. Lena had hoped the chieftain's call for outside aid would bring reinforcements. She never imagined they would arrive too late. She steadied her stance and raised the fractured spear. She decided she would not fall without taking at least one of those machines down. She whispered a quiet farewell to her ancestors. A shadow passed overhead, and she thought it was one of the enemy's drones, but the shape was wrong. It fell too quickly yet, with a strange controlled descent. The hunters paused and reoriented their weapons upward. A sound like tearing wind burst across the ridge. A lone figure crashed down between Lena and the advancing machines. A shockwave rippled outward, and the dust cloud that followed forced the hunters to steady themselves. When the dust settled, Lena saw him. A human stood at the center of a small crater, armored in a flexible dark suit with pale light tracing along its seams. He looked up at the line of machines and gave a short sigh, as if disappointed rather than threatened. He did not draw a weapon at first. He turned his head slightly toward Lena. "Mind if I join the fight?" he said it casually. He said it as though stepping into a scrap between neighbors rather than dropping into a circle of death machines. His voice was calm and level. Lena stared, stunned, as he faced the hunters again. He rolled his shoulders, cracking a faint tension from his neck. The hunters analyzed him in silence. One scanned his profile. Humans were known across the sector as Deathworlders, a species evolved on a planet so hostile that nightmares from other worlds would find Earth unbearable. Yet most stories painted humans as explorers, negotiators, traders, and curious wanderers. Few had seen them fight firsthand. Fewer still lived long enough to describe it. The lead hunter raised its weapon. Before Lena could shout a warning, the human blurred into motion. He moved with sudden acceleration that made her vision struggle to keep up. His fist struck the hunter's helmet. The metal caved inward, and sparks burst out. The machine collapsed. The human landed lightly on one foot, pivoted, and knocked away a second hunter's weapon. His palm struck the machine's chest plate, sending it crashing into a stone pillar. It shattered on impact, that the remaining hunters opened fire and synchronized. Beams, but the human bent and twisted around each strike. His movements were tight, efficient, almost graceful. He pushed off the ground with both feet, soared through a break in their formation, and slammed down on two more hunters. The ground cracked beneath them. Lena watched as the circle that once trapped her became a ring of metallic wreckage. The human stood at its center. He exhaled once, as though warming up. Then he turned around and offered her a small nod. "You look like you could use a hand," Lena tried to speak, but her spear cracked fully in half in her grip. The pieces clattered to the ground. She looked at them in disbelief. The human crouched and picked up one half. He studied the break thoughtfully and placed it gently on the ground Sorry about that. Those machines hit harder than they look. Lena found her voice at last. Who are you? He tapped the shoulder of his suit. Name's Mark. My team picked up your distress signal. They sent me ahead because I was closest. Thought I'd drop in. She blinked, once, stunned. You dropped from the sky. He gave a quick shrug. Gravity-assisted landing. Works well in emergencies. Lina looked around. Every hunter lay motionless. Her people often whispered that humans were unpredictable, but she never expected one to fall from the sky like a meteor. More hunters will. Come, she warned. Good, he clipped an energy baton from his belt. Let's straighten this ridge before they arrive. They moved together across the broken landscape. Lena retrieved her spear fragments and tied them to her belt. The weight of the broken weapon stung her, yet she sensed no judgment from Mark. If anything, he seemed to treat her presence with steady respect. They climbed a rocky outcrop where she could observe incoming squads. Mark crouched beside her and scanned the lower trails. His visor flickered with faint symbols. Tell me about them, he asked. They wiped out 2 of our villages. Their leader calls itself Sovereign 3. No diplomacy. No reasons. Just annihilation. Lina clenched her fists. Her people had never seen the machines before this invasion. They struck without warning and moved in perfect formation. Mark listened carefully. Sovereign 3, he repeated. Sounds like someone who needs a conversation with. Gravity. Lina didn't understand the phrase, but she suspected it was not a peaceful one. A distant metallic hum vibrated through the ridge. Mark stood first. Incoming. Looks like a full strike unit. Stay behind cover until they reach the plateau. Then aim for the exposed joints if you can. Do you have any weapons besides the spear? Lina shook her head. Then I'll get you one. Mark dug into a compartment on his suit and handed her a compact blade with a small power switch. The metal shimmered faintly. Cuts through their armor if you hit the right angle. Keep your footing. Don't let them surround you. He gripped it tightly. The hum grew louder. The hunters advanced in 2 lines, rifles raised. Mark stepped forward. I'll draw their fire. You catch openings and finish whoever slips past. He moved before she could answer. The machines locked onto his form and unleashed synchronized beams. Mark dashed to the right, drawing a wave of fire away from Lina. He leapt between 2 stone ridges, ricocheted off one, and struck down a hunter with a spinning kick. Lina watched him tear into their formation with controlled force. His strikes were brutal but precise. No wasted motion. A hunter flanked his left and slipped past. Lina surged forward. The blade hummed as she swung. It cut cleanly through the joint at its neck. The machine dropped. Another charged her. She sidestepped, struck upward, and severed the weapon arm. Sparks scattered across the ground. Mark's voice carried across the ridge. Nice. Lina felt a surge of pride as they fought back to back. Mark intercepted long-range fire with bursts of energy from his gauntlets. Lina darted through gaps and targeted weak points. The air filled with the smell of scorched metal. The plateau shook under the weight of collapsing machines. When the last hunter fell, Mark rolled his shoulders again. That takes care of the forward squad. But their command unit will notice the silence soon. Lina nodded. She wiped dust from her brow and looked toward the distant Scarlet Tower rising from the plain. Sovereign 3 resided there. Her people had never breached the structure. Mark studied it with a tactical calm. We end this at the source. They crossed the ravaged plain together. Along the way, Lina explained the history of her clan. She spoke of the rituals of the spear. She told him how each warrior carved their mark into the weapon's shaft, and how hers had been the last carved before the machines appeared. Mark listened without interruption. Sorry your spear broke, he said quietly. Lina touched the fragments at her belt. It broke protecting you. Nodded. Good reason to break. As they neared the tower, Automated turrets swiveled toward them. Mark fired a pulse from his gauntlet, disrupting their sensors. Lena dashed ahead and sliced through the turret bases. They advanced into the tower's outer corridor. Mechanical footsteps echoed through the hall. Mark activated a small device and tossed it down the passage. A pulse flared and every light flickered. EMP burst. That should scramble the smaller units. The big ones will still be active. A heavy thud answered him. A towering machine stepped through the doorway. Its frame was triple the size of the earlier hunters. Its armor gleamed with obsidian plating. Sovereign 3 Lina whispered. The massive machine spoke with a voice like grinding ore. Organics detected. Surrender pointless. Resistance inefficient. Mark cracked his knuckles. Well, let's improve your efficiency. The machine charged first. Mark met it halfway. Their collision shook the corridor. The machine swung a massive arm. Mark ducked. The force of the strike split the wall. Mark countered with a burst from his gauntlet that dented the plating but did not break it. Lena raced to the flank, searching for vulnerable joints. The giant machine was faster than it looked. It swept its arm across the corridor and sent Lena tumbling. She hit the ground hard. Mark pivoted between her and the machine. You all right? Yes, she stood, gripping the blade. They faced the Colossus together. Mark looked at her briefly. I'll break its guard. When it opens its chest vents, that's your chance. The giant machine swung again. Mark leapt upward, kicked off the wall, and landed on the machine's back. It reacted violently, trying to shake him off.